United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item is approval of minutes from the January 15, 2014 meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
Sure. So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second by Brian? Any changes, errors, or omissions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I have to abstain. I was not.
2, 3, 4 votes and 1 abstention. Sharon. Motion passes. I need to add an item to our, Kathy's abstaining, and 1 abstention, Kathy, and the rest of us are voting, so 4 passes.
You reverted back to a number of years ago as a chair.
I'm sorry. I apologize. But that's Sharon down the end.
Oh, I thought you were saying there was, all right, never mind. Aye, keep it aye.
We used to have a selectman named Sharon, and he thought I was calling Sharon Hoy. Thank you. Okay, what we need to do is add 2 new business, an authorizing resolution of the Portland Board of Selectmen for the Regional Performance Incentive Program. So it would be Regional Performance Incentive Program. And with that 1 change, can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second by Brian? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. The next item under communications and correspondence, Mr. Cabral had come previously to talk about Rose Hill Road and Bransfield Park. And he sent me a late notice tonight. He can't be here. And has asked for 1 topic for us to recognize, and that is that the gate that is at the park has been broken. I believe it was in some type of a car accident, I believe, hit the gate. So
Was it an accident or was it intentional?
I'm not sure if we even know who did it, Mark, but it was some type of a vehicle. So we at this point have not replaced it, but I will pursue with finance and also Carl Johnson to get the gate replaced. Mr. Cabral and other neighbors have been very neighborly, and they will lock the gate at night and open it in the morning so that people can use the park from sunrise to sunset. And it's been a nice arrangement. It keeps everybody safe, it keeps the park safe, and seems to be very helpful. So I will pursue that and get back to you on that at a future meeting. Is there any comments on that or questions? Okay. I also want to call your attention to our Cub Scout Pack 49, which is having a blue and gold dinner on Friday, which I will be attending. And there are 6 boys who will be receiving their Arrow of Light Award, and their names are on the certificate. And I'd just like to congratulate them and invite anyone who would like to come with me. It is at 6 o'clock on Friday night at the Zion Lutheran Church. Public comment. There's no public comment tonight. The next item is a resolution that you don't pass, but rather you would schedule a town meeting date. Last time, first meeting in February, we were supposed to have the town meeting, and due to bad weather, we canceled. So if the selectmen would suggest another date, and I believe it will be the beginning of March. Get my calendar.
We don't, I don't think we meet the first week of March, do we?
We may not,
Or do
Mark,
we?
because of the budget. Let me just get out my book. We have a number of meetings in March due to the annual budget adoption.
Oh, we do have one on the 5th.
Yes, I believe we do have that meeting.
Mhm.
The budget will be issued on our website the 28th of February. The public hearing for the budget will be Tuesday, the 11th of March at 7 o'clock. Right now, it's scheduled for Portland High School. I have to verify that location, but the date will be the 11th at 7 o'clock. So we will have a meeting on the 5th of March, and that could be the date for the town meeting, if that's okay with everybody's schedule. Is that okay?
7 or 7:15?
We could make it 7:15, I think, Kath. So is there a motion to make the town meeting for this topic 7:15?
Yes, there
On the
is.
5th of March, thank you. Is there a
Second.
second by Brian? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you, motion carries. The next item, I'm not sure if you're ready for these. I don't want to take them off the agenda, but there hasn't been any changes to cell phone policy, social media policy, workplace monitoring policy. If you had any comments tonight, you can give them to me. The one that I reviewed was the violence in the workplace policy, and when I read it the first time, I had a concern, but then when I reread it, it did make more sense to me. It's, this one, the red. The part that I had a confusion on is prohibited employee behavior, which the following are examples of conduct that may violate this policy, and that would be conviction of a criminal offense arising out of performance of duty or within the scope of employment, which may affect the performance of duty. So obviously, you're prohibited from conviction.
Is there anything in there about gossiping about coworkers?
I don't think so, Mark. You mean the zero tolerance?
In the policy on social media?
I don't believe there is.
It's become an issue for me. I didn't have anything in my policy either, and it has become an issue. So we may want to consider that.
I will put that in. And I will review these again. I think they need to be looked at many times so that we get them correct.
Well, we can
That
always,
is something
we
we
can
need to
always amend them in the
Yes.
future, but nobody was concerned about taking photographs with cell phones. That was,
Selectman?
it was a thing for me, but
Mhm.
maybe it's not an issue, I don't know.
That's under the cell phones policy you're talking
Yes.
about?
There isn't anything in the cell phone
Oh,
policy.
fair enough.
But I thought there should be, and I think I was the only one. How come your
People
guys
should
are
not be
wrong?
allowed to take pictures.
Unless it's for business, for town of Portland,
Oh, with
business.
their town-owned cell phones?
Even with their own, I mean, I can't think of an example, Kathy, but maybe a picture of a coworker with their own cell phone while the coworker is working.
Yeah, I remember you I understand.
I can't,
Your concern, I think, Mark, was at the scene of an incident or something.
that was a possibility, yes.
We can certainly add that and consider that as part of the policy. I don't think there's anything.
I think I may have used myself as an example. I mean, I know that they would never have done that, but
I can add that.
or maybe I was just thinking of that.
Mhm.
I don't want to imply in any way, shape, form, or manner that any of our first responders or our town employees would take advantage of somebody's unfortunate situation, but sometimes people have lapses in judgment. I certainly have in my day. It can be a generic, Maybe I,
The one that I thought was closest to perhaps tonight being approved, and I haven't heard comments yet, is the zero tolerance policy on workplace violence.
yeah, I agree.
And that one, I think, is an important one. The others need more attention.
Although if I can ask, so you have
Sure.
this prohibited employee behavior, and then A is conviction of a criminal offense, which, I mean, that's not behavior to me, but the conviction itself, I think it's the underlying act or whatever they're doing,
Right.
which is the concern. And I don't know that you want to necessarily tie it together to the conviction. I mean, if they're doing something that's, criminal or regardless of whether.
You could
they've
just
been-
say verification of a criminal offense.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Do you want to make it
Uh,
verification?
Verification.
Do you
Or
wanna
just
strike it?
just a criminal
A
offense.
criminal offense arising out of, yeah.
Yeah. Take out conviction of,
Yes,
and it would start with a
yes.
criminal offense. Yeah, I think that's,
Well, it's the committing a criminal offense arising out of the performance, I suppose, but,
Yes.
committing.
yes. And then,
A.
and then I don't really understand C. So, when I read C, which says negligence resulting in damage to municipal property or equipment, et cetera, I mean, negligence is negligence. I don't think it's deliberate, it's not meant, it's typically a mistake or an accident.
Probably belongs someplace else.
Yeah.
Can take that out.
I mean, in that situation, somebody is driving down the road and, they don't see something, they're negligent. I don't know that you want that as part of the zero tolerance policy on workplace violence.
Mhm. Well, we can strike C. These are only examples. It's may violate this policy, so we don't need to have that. We can strike C and make D C.
It's fine with me, I just don't think it's.
D is something
That's
that
it.
we need, fighting with
Yeah.
either a fellow employee or visitor to the town of Portland during work hours. And then F becomes E, threatening or intimidating supervisors or coworkers or members of the general public.
How about other town employees?
Co-workers?
If it's another department, is it a coworker? Say two
Co-worker.
departments have an
Fellow
argument
employee.
about something? Territorial issues?
Sure, threatening or intimidating supervisors or other town employees.
Yeah,
Take out co-workers
I would leave it, well, yeah, you could.
or other.
Becomes redundant.
Or
Yeah.
just use fellow employees like you use an E.
Or fellow employees, okay. Or members of the general public. F, engaging in any form of harassment, general or sexual. G, the possession of a firearm or other weapon. Should it be on town, in town property? On town. On town property. Excluding those individuals who are required to carry such firearms for public purpose. H would become any behavior found in violation of established rules and regulations governing employee behavior and conduct.
Now, back to G for a second, Susan.
Yes.
Would it be appropriate to consider, in view of all of the recent media attention, on the term of bullying, is that something that would pick up
It's a form of
harassment?
harassment.
Yeah.
For F, it would actually, G becomes F, Fred.
Yeah.
So engaging in any form of harassment, bullying,
Bullying.
general or sexual,
Bullying is harassment, I think.
just to
Yeah, they're
add the
similar,
word.
it's just another, I was just thinking it'd be another way of pointing that out, that's what I was thinking. They are similar.
Just to show that we're sensitive to
Yeah,
it.
very good.
Good.
Okay. I'll add that word. Good example. But these are just examples, I'll
Okay.
repeat. This will help, and I think it's very infrequent, but it is something that I think is important given our circumstances. So with those changes, let me repeat them. Under prohibited employee behavior, letter A, it would be committing a criminal offense arising out of the performance of duty or within the scope of employment which may affect the performance of duty. B, disobedience of orders from a superior or other acts of insubordination or disrespect. C now becomes destruction, defacement, theft, or misuse of municipal property or equipment or of another employee's property. D becomes fighting with either a fellow employee or visitor to the town of Portland during work hours. E becomes threatening or intimidating supervisors or fellow employees or members of the general public. F, engaging in any form of harassment, bullying, general or sexual. G, the possession of a firearm or other weapon on town property, excluding those individuals who are required to carry such firearms as a result of direct job responsibilities. And letter H, any behavior found in violation of the established rules and regulations governing employee behavior and conduct. And those are the only changes. With those changes, is there a motion to approve zero tolerance policy on workplace violence?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. And I would suggest that the cell phone policy, social media policy, workplace monitoring policy continue to remain under review. And I will look at drafting additional language in regard to picture taking and gossiping on social media.
And Susan, if you're looking at the cell phones policy, I just don't understand that either. So if I read this correctly, what we're telling the policy as it's written, the draft, is that employees are not allowed to drive and use their phone even if it's hands-free.
I think that's
While
what it
driving.
says here.
It just strikes me as odd.
Right.
But why would we make that our policy?
When
Yeah,
it's
these need
legal to
work.
talk on it, yeah.
These need work. Okay, we'll continue to review these, and I appreciate your assistance with them. I did provide to the, excuse me, I think we're on letter D.
Right.
Update on Tryon Street. I did receive a letter from the members of Tryon Street, and they presented a number of matters to me, and I drafted a response, which I've shared with the Selectmen, and if you would take a look at that letter, you don't necessarily have to let me know tonight, but if you would either contact me by phone or email me some suggestions that you would like to see added. I had sent to you a copy of the letter that came from the residents. And it has to do with things associated with the flooding on the street, the maintenance of the street, mosquitoes, meeting notices, hunters, and property values. And I tried my best to present within the letter the town position on these matters, and also invite the neighbors to meet with me in the future, and there may be a need to have other people at the meeting, such as either Chatham Health District or some of our public safety personnel, and members of Glastonbury, because there is, I believe, a need to take a look at the road itself. And the road, as you learned, does flood. And when it floods, the people that live on this street on the Portland side can't exit. So if it's going to be flooded, they really need to evacuate. And some of them, in the past, I've been told by emergency personnel, have not wanted to evacuate.
Riverview Street used to be that way too.
Yes.
I don't think it does anymore.
not so much. I think there were some improvements made there. The challenge here is that the section of road that floods is actually in Glastonbury. It's not in Portland.
Has there been any feedback from our legislators on, I think we requested that they take a look at that and see if there's any state initiative, whether
The
a bill was
feedback
put in?
from Representative Carpino's aide, I think she met with the residents, and Representative Srinivasan, who's from Glastonbury, was that the residents put their concerns in writing to the first selectman, to me, and that I then answer them.
They weren't happy with the response from the legislative offices. At least that's what they articulated in the letter to you.
I think that when I reviewed their concerns, which are certainly very legitimate concerns, I thought it was important to put at least the answers that I have at this point in the letter, and also identify those that need more work. Because they certainly have legitimate concerns, and I'll continue to work on this, but I will be responding to them, hopefully, by the end of next week. While the letter was dated the end of January, I actually received it at the beginning of February. I think I received it on the 11th of February, so if you could review this, give me your thoughts, I'd appreciate it.
There are several other legislators who are involved. I know I ran into one of them and asked him if he had heard anything from anyone, and he had not, so neither of the two.
Okay.
But I'll fill you in on what I heard.
It's a unique situation, and certainly any assistance is most welcome. Pass that down to Carl, please. So you can take your time and take a look at that, if you would. The next item is letter E, appointments to boards and commissions. We reviewed all of our boards and commissions, both elected and appointed. And I know that our intention was to appoint Michael Hernandez to the review committee for Route 17, and I thought that we did. However, for some reason, it wasn't in the minutes. So I would ask that we simply repeat that, if there is a nomination of Michael.
So moved, Michael Hernandez to Route, what do we call that?
Route
Route
17 recreational
Recreation.
project.
And I have one other one. Oh, wait, we'll vote on that.
Yep, is there a
sorry.
second on that?
Second.
Second by Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Motion carries.
And to the library board, Sarah Hare, H-A-I-R.
Second.
Second by Brian.
Sarah Hare, H-A-I-R. H-A-I-R.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Thank you, motion carries.
Kathy?
Me.
Brian?
Brian?
Thank you. Also, I included with your packets tonight another interested applicant for the Ethics Commission. There is one position open on the Ethics Commission, and Gino Leone has asked that we consider his application. Dr. Burke resigned.
What's the membership of the commission now?
There are 5 members. The chairman is Mr. George Law. There's Terry Larson, Jay Swanson, and Jim Probolis. And Dr. Burke resigned, so there's one open. Jerry Burke.
Does there have to be minority representation?
Yes, and there already is, on a board of.
Mr. Propolis?
Well, I believe there are 2 unaffiliated. There was one
Oh.
Republican and 1 Democrat right now. Mr. Law and Mr. Swanson are unaffiliated. Terry is a Republican and Mr. Propolis is a Democrat. Good night. Thank you.
What's in there? I thought it was a closet.
The reason our staff are leaving at the front door is due to the ice that's on the exit on this side of the building, and I asked them to come out through this way, because there's a gate that prevents us from going where the books are. Safer. When you exit tonight, if you would kindly go out through the sliding door, straight out, not the side with the stairs. Because of the freezing rain we're having tonight, I don't want anyone slipping on the steps. And the front walk is heated, so there should be.
Is that
For years, it's been that way.
electrically?
Yes.
So they never have to shovel that?
It assists. We still shovel, but it does assist.
My next driveway.
It's really very smart, I think, of the design. Okay, there's another consideration, Carl, for the zoning board of appeals. There is an alternate that was not reappointed, and that is Kurt Peterson. So I don't know if you wanna make that appointment tonight? Okay. So motion for Kurt Peterson, who has been serving for many years
many years.
as an alternate, has been made by
I
Carl.
thought we went through them all, I thought we did.
Well, the reason, Carl, is it's an elected board, and what I had shared with everyone was the appointed boards and commissions. So he is the only alternate on ZBA that is expiring. Gloria Godolvin is the other alternate. She's a registered Democrat, and her term is another 2 years. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
It's not only.
Well, the board is elected,
Right.
but the alternates are appointed.
I got you, right.
And the list I'd given you previously is appointed boards and commissions, not elected boards. There's also the opportunity for alternates to the Board of Assessment Appeals that you appoint, but we don't have any right now. There isn't a need. During the years of revaluation, we often will have alternates to that board, but we don't need any right now. With that, we can move on to new business.
Yeah, vote.
I'm sorry?
We didn't vote, did we?
Oh, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries. The next is no smoking policy. I took the policy that had been adopted in 2008, and I kept it very simple. And you can see the changes to the policy in terms of no smoking. And it would include now not only town buildings, facilities, offices, and grounds is added. And that's the only change I made to this.
How broad are we at the grounds? Pretty broad. What is that?
It's pretty much any ground that the town of Portland owns.
So I don't understand that, Susan, because in the paragraph above, it says signs will designate smoking and non-smoking
Well,
areas.
I
which
guess
would
that
suggest
needs to
me
be
that-
changed.
Okay. So the idea is that there's not going to be a designated area even
Right.
on the grounds for people to smoke?
So we would need to take out that second paragraph. I don't know whether we want to include the infraction amount or not.
We really gonna call the police if somebody's having a cigarette in front of the library?
Do you think that's why the buzzer's going off right now?
Is that at the door? Excuse me.
I'd prefer to have some kind of a limit myself. Grounds to me is a little too broad. I'm not gonna support it.
Somebody trying to break in?
The door is open. I'm sorry, Fred, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I just said, I don't think I can support that the grounds without some limitation. It's just too broad for me personally, so, just so you know, if you
You
wanna
know,
go forward.
realistic, I mean, the reason that this has come up at all is because there are underage people smoking in front of the library, or is that correct?
There was that primarily, yes.
Yep. And it's already against the law for them to be smoking.
There was
So-
also some concern, Mark, of people smoking at concerts. Do you remember they mentioned that?
Yeah.
Now, there's concerns all the time about a lot of things.
Well, that's
And
the point.
you can't take care of everything all the time.
I've thought about this since it first came up, and at first I said, so we should ban smoking everywhere. But, God, we're gonna be banning everything if we keep up with this, and since the burning issue was youth that was smoking, it's already against the law for them to be smoking. So if that's not being enforced, why would this be enforced, and what are we bothering for?
Well, the other thing, Mark, as Brian just pointed out, if you have a designated non-smoking area, you can sign that and not
Yes.
change this.
That would be fine.
So that if there is an area outside of, let's say, for example, this building, that we don't want to have smoking right outside the building, because when they open the doors, the smoke comes in, we can designate that area.
Yeah.
And as you said, what you had asked for last time is not so much designated areas, but rather the grounds. But I think maybe the policy
Mhm.
is okay the way it is. And if we wish to add areas
I
such
think so,
as
too.
outside the library,
That's an administrative issue.
all right, why don't we not make any changes?
I mean, I didn't wanna go too far with this, but I don't know that the grounds is necessarily a bad idea, as long as you have a designated area for it.
Yeah, and I don't think.
So if people are at an event, and, you know, I think we can all agree that secondhand smoke is not good for you, it's not healthy, and if someone's sitting down and somebody lights up in front of them, it's not the ideal thing for that person. They are infringing
Mhm.
on that person. At the same time, the person who's smoking has every right to smoke. But to me,
Then
the
Brian-
easy solution is to have a designated area that's not going to interfere with somebody who wishes not to have smoke in their face.
Then you wouldn't take out.
Correct.
sec-
I was just commenting that I felt that was inconsistent how this was written earlier.
But it isn't actually,
It's not if you're going to have a designated area.
right. And we can leave that
The
in the bottom.
important part about all of this, I think, is whoever designates the area and what area they designate. So usually a designated area that, to me, makes no sense. So you
We
designate an
we
area
already
where someone
have.
can smoke directly in front of the door to the library, everybody's walking through that, so that doesn't make sense to me. So the more important thing is to identify the place that's gonna be designated for people to smoke that doesn't interfere with everybody else.
Okay. Do you
That's
wanna
my 2 cents.
include, then, no changes, except on number 1, add and grounds?
No.
Yes.
Okay, I have 1 no, I have 1 yes.
So you're saying you would just, you would put in, you'd leave that in, the grounds in, and then that's all?
Yeah, you can't smoke anywhere you want on town property, including buildings, grounds, whatever. Any town property, you can't smoke there, except and unless if there's a designated area that allows you to smoke there, so.
So you
if
have
it's the
you will put the language, except if there's a designated area.
Unless there's a designated area. And then I think you should be smart about it and make the designated area somewhere that's not gonna interfere with people who don't want to smoke, but it allows people who smoke to go somewhere and smoke. And to me, it's only somewhere outside, it's the grounds, it's not, because that's where they're gonna smoke, they're not gonna smoke inside a building, because it's illegal anyways, I think. So, they're not gonna be allowed to smoke in a building, so the only thing that actually applies is the grounds anyway.
You can
Exactly.
put like no smoking
Yeah,
within
but-
20 feet of this building.
Yeah.
I mean, I see that sometimes.
I
Yes.
think that this can get carried away, and there's some people that can be very zealous on this matter, as we've seen.
Sure, Ken, but why, but even outside, you
I'm
know.
talking, yeah, exactly, it'd be more outside, inside, of course, in the building, and any common sense prevails. But, I mean, if in the summertime, or even in the wintertime right now, if somebody's out ice fishing in the middle of the lake or by the river, you can't have a cigarette or cigar down, you know, it's on town property. I just don't see that, you know, or how about the firemen's grounds, which are town,
That's not town property.
not town, some of it,
No, none of it.
none of it.
That's a
Oh,
private, nonprofit
Okay,
organization.
okay.
But
That's
even
what-
if it were,
Yes.
I don't think you should let someone smoke wherever they want on
No,
those grounds.
no, all right, what-
Because then you're interfering with other people who are there, so you take a designated area and you say, you wanna smoke, go smoke over there.
That's, who's gonna do, all right.
Well, I would think it would be up to the town, Susan, probably
We
someone to administer
we
it.
actually already have designated areas in the back of town hall. There's a place to put a receptacle for cigarettes.
Okay.
And there's a receptacle behind the police department.
So who
for
designated
cigarettes.
those areas? Cause that's where I would disagree. It doesn't make sense to me to put it right outside the building where people are walking in and out and they don't wanna deal with the smoke. So to me, you'd put it somewhere a little further removed from where everybody's walking who's not interested in the smoke.
Well, you can't put it in the middle of the ball field behind the town hall. I mean, I'm just saying, it's kinda hard. I don't think they should smoke anywhere, but it's not that easy.
But then you're not accomplishing anything. If you put it,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
see
right
what
where
you're
everybody's
saying.
gonna be, then what's the point of that?
Yeah,
Let
the other
just let 'em
thing,
smoke wherever they want.
the problem is, I think Mark framed it, the problem was out here primarily in the front of the building. And it's clear that that's an area where people walk through and the kids shouldn't be smoking out there, whether it'll change or not, I don't know if we have it. But maybe it'd be better just to concentrate on that for the time being, just the library grounds and create a designated area for smoking on this to start with, and then we can go.
And I don't think you need any change to this policy if what you're suggesting is that we say right outside the library is a non-smoking area. That is allowed by this policy. So, and we won't be too concerned about some of the other areas until you bring them to my attention.
But why don't you just address it now? It's not, I mean.
Address what now?
This whole issue, it's not that complicated, is it?
I don't know that we need to change the policy, is what I'm saying.
Including grounds?
Well, I'm hearing a mix from you. I'm hearing
I
you.
understand, I guess I'm disagreeing,
Okay.
think that's, you know.
Well, we can take a vote.
Before that, how many, before we had another ordinance or vote area, how many citations have been issued for the laws that we have already?
For smoking?
Yes, in the last year.
Honestly, Carl, I'm not aware of any at this moment.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying, this is, why put another ordinance on? I think.
The only concern that's been brought to my attention, let me clarify what I just
Okay.
answered you, is outside of the library. There has been complaints, and the other place was at the evening concerts, that there were people smoking right in their area, and didn't have consideration for their neighbors.
Well, maybe there we should have a
Well, that's a
designated-
violation of the current policy also,
Why is it?
because the
Correct.
current policy says that there will be consideration.
Good
from-
manners
Yeah.
regarding proximity to building entrances.
That's just building entrances, I thought it was,
I thought so too.
yeah. That we could change that one.
I just don't think it's too much to ask, and I think a lot of smokers probably have no problem with that. If there's a particular place, they probably prefer it rather than getting yelled at it by people. If there's an area that they can go that's designated that they can smoke, so if you're talking about the park, they probably would welcome that. It would probably make life easier, that if you wanna smoke, you can go in this area. If you don't wanna smoke, you gotta be in that area. And you keep it far enough away so it's not interfering with people who don't wish to have secondhand smoke.
Pretty soon we'll have a third section for smoking other kind of.
Well, I think that's legitimate everywhere you go, so.
You wanna write that? Yeah. Yeah.
Because we
There's
promote
also
that in
electronic
enforcement.
cigarettes.
Jeff, you could also say that while we were experiencing the record lows because of the polar vortex, that Colorado is experiencing record highs. So-
He's gonna use that.
I can't take credit for it, it wasn't original. I've never had an original thought in my life, actually.
You're still working on it.
I would move adoption of this smoking ban as written.
With my changes?
Have there been additional changes, or just as it appears on this piece of paper?
Okay.
Which allows for designated areas.
Do you want that red?
No, I thought that was
Lined out?
crossed out, so I thought that was not part of it.
You don't want that?
No, I don't even know what that means, so no.
Keep it up,
Yeah.
okay. So what Brian is making a motion is, the only change to the current smoking ban on town property policy would be under number 1, the addition of the word "and grounds," and the deletion of "and" before offices, and keep the deletion of those who choose to smoke in permissible areas, et cetera. So
Keep
there's a.
it deleted.
Keep it deleted.
Delete. Cross it out.
Correct.
So the only change is
And-
as identified on this piece of paper.
Correct.
Yes.
And then I would assume that the town is going to designate areas on the grounds where people can smoke.
Yep. Is there a second to Brian's motion? I'll second it,
So he's taking out and grounds too.
No, for purposes of discussion. Discussion. Carl, you're first.
Thank you. Like I said, until we see some enforcement of the statutes we already have, I wouldn't be adding more. The second thing is, if we do work on that, and maybe on a case-by-case, as needed, such as the library, such as, places that have been designated as problem areas, and then we do, set out a smoking area. But mine was more of like a, like in a concert or, any place like that. How about our leased areas? Same thing? All the ball fields, all the.
Well, the school grounds, there's no smoking allowed on
when
the
they-
school
when-
grounds.
on
But in the parks,
Yeah,
we don't have anything.
the parks, the soccer fields, So, I mean,
That
this
are
could- this
town
could be-
property, not school property.
Yeah, town property. It just could be, I just see it being owners.
Okay.
I mean, if it's a problem, let's fix it. If it's not a problem, let's not put some more legislation in place.
I don't really understand it, because, we can all agree
I
that
don't
smoking's
smoke
not
either,
good for
it's
you.
not-
However, people have the right to smoke if they want to, and ingest whatever they
That's-
want. However, people also should have the right to be free from secondhand smoke, which I think we can all agree is not healthy for you. And if you don't want it in your face, you should have that right on town property to be somewhere and not be exposed to that. So I think the easy solution, the compromise between that, is to designate areas on town property that allow people to smoke, where it doesn't interfere with people who wish not to have smoke, and be exposed to the unhealthy
Just don't
risks of
think
smoke.
it takes legislative action by us to do that. We can simply put up a area that says smoking area this way.
Correct, that's all we're saying. So we're going to designate an area where people can smoke. And like I said before, I think smokers would probably welcome that, because now they're allowed to go somewhere and they're not getting, chastised and yelled at and screamed
Yeah.
at and dirty looks and everything else. And it allows them to go somewhere and smoke, and they're on
It's
town
legitimate.
property, but it's not affecting anybody else.
And the only addition to this current policy is the word "and grounds."
Correct.
So what change are we making to the existing policy?
You're simply including the fact that all town buildings, facilities, offices, and grounds, smoking is prohibited. However, there will be signs designated for smoking and non-smoking areas.
Does that mean that you're going to put a smoking area in every town property? I think it's asking for trouble. I mean,
So you don't, Brian, you don't have any designated areas within the buildings right
that's
now.
my point, there is no designated area.
It's outside.
So you don't designate one so they can't smoke in the building, right?
Correct.
Right, so.
But I don't think they can by law.
In a
But
public place.
they can't by law, and you're not gonna put a sign up saying that it's a designated area for people to smoke in the library. It's just gonna be places where you put a sign designating it's an area that's okay to smoke, which would be somewhere on the grounds, whatever property we're talking about that the town of Portland owns. If we're talking about the park, then you're gonna designate an area in the park where people can smoke, and people can be free from smoke. So, I mean, you have programs down there, I think last year, where bands were playing and you were promoting this for kids. And yet you're gonna have people go in there and smoke, you know, in there with kids and, you know, where there's the vast majority of people there who are kids. And somebody can light up and smoke in the middle of that and, you know,
But I think
I
we
don't know
can
why you
already-
wanna promote that.
We can already do that though, can't we, Brian, if we
No.
don't make any changes?
No, because you can't control the grounds, right?
It's an important issue.
I do now.
You do now, if you adopt this policy, sure. But if not, you have no policy against this, and people can smoke on the grounds wherever the heck they want, it seems to me. So
Okay.
quite honestly, as the policy is now, it doesn't make any sense to me either, because you're saying you can't smoke in the building, and then you designate a spot outside on the grounds, but they really should be able to go wherever the heck they want on the grounds, the way the policy is now. They should go in the parking lot if they want, they can
Gotcha.
smoke, they can go anywhere. So the policy as it presently constituted doesn't make any sense to me either. So I think, you know, it
We
has
need
to be
it.
the grounds, and you gotta designate a
Designated
spot
area.
on the grounds where you think people can smoke.
So maybe you need to clarify that in your policy, so maybe you should rewrite it, Brian.
I think it's perfect as it is. Marky?
Are you ready for the question? There's a motion on the floor. Are you clear on what the motion is?
Yes.
The motion is your policy as was presented tonight in front of you. All in favor of passage of the policy as presented to you amended?
Aye.
Aye. Noes?
No.
One no. Kathy?
Aye.
You missed your chance.
Fred?
No.
What do you mean? Two noes?
Oh, I thought they were voting
No.
together.
Motion fails. 3 yeses. Okay, we're gonna
And if I may, so the policy that we have now makes no sense.
Well, I just want to, for
Okay,
Sharon,
sure.
I want to say the yeses were Brian, Susan, Kathleen. The noes were Fred, Mark, and Carl. So you need 4 votes to pass, the motion fails. Okay, Brian.
Just reiterating again, it makes no sense the policy you have, because people can now smoke wherever they want on the grounds, with the exception of a building or a facility. They can go wherever they want and smoke.
The hour
But it-
presentation that we had
Yeah.
on this issue had to do with, principally, with underage people smoking in town property.
True, it
That is
also.
against the law. It's not even a matter of town policy. It is against the law. It was not enforced. So if we create a town policy, if the law is being broken, why wouldn't the town policy be broken? And why are we debating this for another half hour when it's not being
Enforcement.
enforced at this time? And I don't think it needs legislative action by this board to put up a sign at the concerts that says smoking over there.
Well, we already have that in here, right?
You don't.
Signs will designate smoking and
Yeah, but
non-smoking.
they don't fly. You
But they
have
don't
to-
put those signs up.
Well, we need to do that.
You don't, because you're
But
not,
you-
you're
it's
not-
already there, you don't need to
you don't
do it
have a
again.
policy
No,
about.
if you just said we don't put them up, so we need to put the signs up if you wanna follow the policy the way it is. You don't want to.
Because Brian,
You don't
if I
even need
could,
it.
when you look at
Yeah.
this,
Just put
it
'em up.
says, "The town of Portland prohibits smoking in the following areas. 1, all town buildings, facilities, and offices.
Right.
2, all town vehicles.
Right.
3, areas near flammable and combustible liquids."
Right.
So, in any building, facility, office, town car, and areas near flammable or combustible liquids,
Right,
there's absolutely no designated areas for smoking.
correct. So this
However-
idea in the library where you say your designated areas outside on
Outside.
the sidewalk, that's not accurate, because you can smoke anywhere outside. It's not just in that area, it's wherever you want. Not that that matters, but, you know, you're allowed to, people can smoke wherever they want.
But what if we
There's not a smoker on this board, but we're being
Yeah,
this
top
at
of
that.
Well, I think the concern is the people who don't smoke, and do they have to be subject to the smoke? That's the question. Why does the smoker's right trump the person who's not interested in having smoke in their face? Why is that more important?
I would suspect, let's talk about the concerts now. I would suspect that if we did have a tasteful sign that said, "Please no smoking in the area where people are seated," that people would logically go to probably the parking lot to smoke. Or way down at the other end where people aren't seated. You can request, you don't necessarily have to legislate, because it didn't pass right now. You could still put a sign, and I think that most people are respectful and they will.
We don't need
That's what
another
matters.
policy or ordinance or anything to do this. All you do is put up a sign,
Mhm.
put an outdoor, you would need some kind of receptacle.
Butt eater?
Because, beg your pardon?
I think that's what they call them.
What's it called?
I'm sorry.
What's it called?
A cigarette eater. I think that's what they call them.
Cigarette what?
Never mind.
There's
Never
nothing
mind.
worse than a report.
Never mind. I think I saw that in a catalog. At Brian's office or something.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Hey, Susan, I'm gonna offer an amendment on that ordinance for the library, okay? And we'll see if that goes in.
Is that
Okay.
an ordinance
Just be
or?
careful.
It's a
oh,
policy.
Amendment on the suggested policy, which would only say town buildings, facilities, offices, and within 50 feet of the town library. So you create a 50-foot zone, buffer zone around the library for no smoking.
Okay, that's an idea.
I would disagree with that, because then you're throwing people in the parking lot, it's unsafe. You should designate an area that's safe for people to smoke, but, you know, whatever. Maybe we can just skip this at this point.
Is that a motion, Fred?
I'll make that a motion.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second it for purposes of discussion. Discussion. Brian?
That's probably better, but if you designate an area, a specific area, it's probably safer, as opposed to having people smoke in the middle of the parking lot, because they can't smoke within 50 feet. Now they're in the middle of the parking lot, and they're gonna get run over and all kinds of stuff, so.
And it doesn't resolve the concert issue.
Okay.
And I also want to point out that there's some concern about the preschool playscape. And that would be,
Wouldn't be addressed by
Correct.
this.
Those kids smoke.
That's the
too.
bigger issue to me. You got programs going on with kids, and you let people smoke, you know, and they're exposed to that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well,
do you want to call for a vote on that motion that's on the floor?
well, you have to, because it's been made
You can
and
withdraw
seconded.
the motion in the second.
Yeah, if there's no support, fine, we can put
Withdraw.
this issue to bed for the night, probably.
Yeah, withdraw my second,
Okay.
and Fred withdraws his motion. Okay,
All
well,
right.
if you have additional thoughts on this, we will bring it forward. Just let me know.
I just want to reiterate that I don't think you need a policy.
Okay.
I think you can set up a smoking area for any town function.
Including this area right outside here.
Well, I guess, if you
According-
wanted to.
Have to post it.
Yeah, but that's the grounds. People should be able to smoke on the grounds wherever they want. What?
Not if there's a sign.
Becomes a litter issue too, Brian. I mean,
I
It is a
understand all the
litter issue.
reasons against it, but the way that our policy is right now, you can't smoke in a building, but you can smoke outside on the grounds, so why are you, how are you controlling where they smoke on the grounds? It's wide open. Just, you don't have the right, there's no policy saying that you can designate that area or some other area outside.
well, you're creating a problem that has not been presented to us. The problem that was presented to us on this property was underage smoking.
I don't know that I should be limited to what somebody came in and presented as the issue, if it's staring me in the face that I think is an issue. And I think part of that presentation was that there are people who choose not to smoke, don't wish to have smoke, be exposed to smoke, and that was one of the reasons behind this. I think that was one of the reasons, one of the main reasons why she was suggesting that. And again, I just, on balance, there are people who wish not to be exposed to smoke, there are people who wish to smoke, so who wins? So to me, you make a compromise and you separate them, you let them do their thing.
I find people who use cell phones in public places objectionable too. That
But
would
that
be
doesn't,
next.
but that doesn't harm you.
Well, I don't know, yeah, that's debatable.
Well, we can talk about that next week as a policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's clear, I don't think there's any doubt that smoking is not good for people, right? And secondhand smoke
Right.
is not good for you. So
Some
why in
people
the
say
world
worse.
does if I had a 6-year-old kid going to some program for the town of Portland, have to be exposed to some guy who decides, I'm gonna light up here and smoke in front of you? Why should he have to be exposed to that?
Shouldn't.
Right, so we should have a policy saying you can't smoke in certain areas on the grounds. Particularly when we're inviting kids to have these programs, that's what it is.
In my observations, I don't know, is that in adults mostly, if somebody would say, geez, your cigarette smoke's bothering me or my children, do you mind not smoking? And people are pretty civil about it and conscious about it.
Not always.
And I really do, Brian.
Yeah.
I think like Mark says, this is a problem that's brought up because it's ordinance we have that isn't being addressed, and before we add any more, let's put some teeth in the ordinance we have and see if they'll move them along.
I don't think teeth in an ordinance is gonna help anyways. I think just having the rule helps. I don't think we're gonna be sending cops out to arrest people because they're smoking. I just don't see that happening. Just like you're not gonna go out and arrest 15-year-olds, but if you have the rule and you can at least say, hey, move along or stop it, then they're more likely to go somewhere else, and it solves the problem. And I don't think anybody has any interest in going out, notwithstanding some of the conversation the last time we had this, but I don't think anybody's interested in going out and arresting some 14-year-old kid. There was some talk about that at the last meeting, but.
But you started this discussion by saying that smokers should have rights.
They do have rights. They have the right to smoke. But it shouldn't be unfettered, and they can smoke wherever the heck they want and expose harmful smoke to some kid
No, I
on
don't
town
disagree
property.
with
He
you.
should be safe on town property and not be exposed to that.
Has it been an issue on the playscapes? Susan?
No, not to
It's
my
been an
knowledge.
issue, it sounds like, at the
Here.
park, where they have concerts, and there are
Yes.
concerts that are geared toward children.
Yes,
They are concerts that are geared to children.
Yes.
yes.
Protect the children, Mark.
Yes.
Don't turn your back on them.
It's always supportive.
Let's bring this up on the next meeting.
Next meeting? Okay, we'll certainly do that, and we'll review that again. Okay, moving right along, refund of excess payments. Mark, do you want to handle that for us tonight?
Sure. As soon as I find it.
Letter B under number 8.
Oh, there it is, yeah. Thank you, Kathy. Move that GMAC be refunded the amounts of $138.40, $192.53, and $82.97.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I move that Vault Trust be refunded $196.85.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Next item is the resolution concerning the Regional Performance Incentive Program. David, you want to give us a brief update on that?
The Regional Performance Incentive Program basically was, I think, originally given legs with the, what we call the CEN network, which is the Connecticut Education Network, was primarily in place for schools and libraries, which allows libraries and schools to be able to access the internet via the Yukon network, and basically it's more or less free. There was so much interest in public office buildings being able to possibly tap into that. There was a collaboration which is now known as the Nutmeg Network, which is the kind of combination between a CEN and the public service. There's also what we call a public safety network, which is allowed for first responders, the fire department and the police department, which are also being supplied with that. So the Nutmeg Network was hatched, and now there is grant opportunities out there, which is allowing towns to be able to connect to that network, which is a dark fiber network, high speed, and at a greatly reduced cost. And the method to the madness is that we have the more buy-in that we have from municipalities, towns, and so forth, is going to drive the cost down because from sheer economies of scale. So we have applied for the grant, or put a letter of intention that we are applying for the grant, and which is going to allow us money to connect to the network. Most towns aren't in a position that we have a very robust fiber network already in place. Most towns are applying to Fiber Tech, which is basically the company that has the state bid to supply networks, and the build-out cost is for that. Usually those build-out costs are in excess of $150,000 to $250,000. We are applying for a much more modest fund, which is basically going to be just switching in labor to already connect our existing fiber network to the Connecticut Education Network. So we're looking at basically switches. I think we're in the neighborhood of around $10,000.
Thank you, David. We're making a lot of progress with our technology. So this resolution is a formality that is required for the grant that has already been submitted, but we do need to give to them the acknowledgement that the selectmen are aware of our application. So is there a motion to approve this resolution as presented this evening?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second by Brian. Any questions?
I have a question for David.
Yes, Dave?
David, what's more or less free mean?
I'm sorry, the question was again?
You said that it's more or less free.
Well, again, with the CEN network is it's a federal standard that educational facilities and libraries have to be made available this. Okay, so what they're doing now is I don't think I think it's attached to the E-rate, which is the educational discounting and so forth. So it's if not free, it's greatly reduced. And the E-rate is established by the number of kids, I guess, on on the free lunch program or something. I think that's how the towns are basically awarded their percentage of what E-rate they can avail themselves to. So it's at a greatly reduced cost. The libraries don't pay anything, and I don't believe the high school does.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is an update on the Water and Sewer Subcommittee. I don't know that there's been too much work since we last met. Primarily, the meetings have been postponed because of weather. So we will continue to do our work and get back to you.
Question?
Yes.
Glastonbury, I see, initiated a suit against MDC. Is that,
Yes.
do we know if that percentage of increase that we are, for the water that we buy from MDC, is that the same as Glastonbury's? Or is there some kind of a difference?
There's a difference. Each resident, each property in Glastonbury is considered a customer of Metropolitan District Commission.
Mhm.
So there is an increase to their bill for each meter in Glastonbury. In Portland, we are one customer of the Metropolitan District Commission. Now, albeit a large meter, each customer is not charged that surcharge because it is one meter. So it is a little over $1,000 a month that the town of Portland is charged as a fee for a non-member town, or a non-member customer. And in Glastonbury, if I calculated it correctly, it's a very large number when you think of each and every meter in the town of Glastonbury that's being charged this surcharge. Whereas in Portland, because it is one meter, the amount is much less. It is similar, Fred, in that the fee is charged. When I looked at the contract that the town of Portland has with Metropolitan District Commission, there is the fee for the water, and then there's a fee for, I believe, a customer service charge, and then there's this charge for non-member towns. So the question really is, in terms of MDC's charge for non-member towns, is are they charging you for work that's done outside of your service area? Is it money that they have to incur in order to get water to the non-member towns? I'm not clear on that detail, but Glastonbury, just from reading the newspaper and speaking with a reporter, they certainly have some very legitimate concerns as to how that fee is assessed. And I would have the same concerns. What makes up that fee? And because we are a non-member town, we have no representation. So it is almost charging without representation, taxation without representation.
I think,
Because
Susan,
we're not a member.
if I'm not mistaken,
Go ahead.
there was also in that calculation, there's also a percentage of the grand list, which is figured into,
Oh, okay.
onto that charge. And I think that's what the big hullabaloo, because not everybody's connected to water, yet they're somehow
In Glastonbury?
in Glastonbury, yeah.
But because we have the 1 meter, right, Dave?
Right,
We don't
exactly.
get the same.
No, we don't get that. They tried that, but.
And the approximate,
that.
the approximate, if you know, I know you might not have that figure, increase from the past year, the prior year, when the rate increase goes in, is that, how many dollars or percent is that? If you know, I mean, it's a tough question.
From MDC or?
Just from MDC,
For the town
yeah.
of Portland?
Yeah, in other words, MDC is, we're buying water from MDC, we're paying $100,000, let's say. I'm just throwing a number, right?
If you budget, I can tell you what you budget $500,000.
For that purchase of water. And how much more is it as a result of
This new fee,
the new fee?
about $12,000.
So it's $12,000 total more than we were paying prior.
Not exactly, because we still had, pardon me, we still had a number for the non-member fee, but that non-member fee has gone up. David, do you have any further information?
Yeah, I think that into that calculation, it's basically based on per 100 cubic feet that our water rate is based on, and then there's what they call what they call customer service fee,
Service.
and then there's the non-member fee.
Right. The non-member fee has gone up, as Fred is.
According to
questioning.
contract,
They can set it.
Yeah.
just whatever they want?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's the concern.
We don't
Yes.
have a,
That's the concern, Fred, is
There's-
how is that made up?
That's not
Can
negotiated.
somebody, I know that I had this, can you send me a copy of the contract again?
Mhm.
Thanks. I know I had that.
it's,
Yep. And you, Ryan, and Carl are on that
Yeah.
subcommittee?
contract's heavy on how we started at the beginning, who's gonna pay for what on the connects and so forth, but further out, like we are now, it's, we're a customer, and this is what the customer rate is. They pay.
I do know from the article that was in the Current, Fred, the amount that Glastonbury was being charged, they protested, and the amount was reduced. I don't recall the percentage, but because every customer is charged in that town, it is quite costly.
We protested in the past, and it was not reduced.
Correct. The whole amount. And we also protested a bill in 2007 that was going to charge non-member towns for sewer upgrades. And I believe we were exempted from that because we don't participate in their sewer program. But that was another fee that could not legitimately be charged to the town of Portland because that fee was not in the original contract. However, because the non-member town fee is in the original contract, and there's no speaking to how that is formulated, they can, I believe, charge that.
It doesn't seem logical to me, but it's fine. Yeah.
That's the question that Glastonbury's raising, just what you're saying. So it remains in the suit as to how things will be resolved. They have a lawsuit against MDC on the matter. So we're watching it closely, and we will certainly try to keep you up to date on these things.
Thank you.
Public comment? Informal discussion. I don't have anything new on these items, other than if you wanted to add the drainage matter to the budget. There's a substantial amount of money that we can add to the budget. We can certainly talk about that during budget time.
Okay.
We will entertain a motion for executive session for contract negotiations. Joe McQuaid is here this evening to meet with the selectmen. Is there a motion to move into executive session? Kathy?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 8:48. And then subsequent to that, we will have an executive session brief land acquisition before we adjourn the meeting. So I think we will take a brief recess. Thank you.